Jaiket, and it is October the 3rd today. Welcome back, Norrie. I can see that you're wearing your Aberdeen top.
No, this is a purely Shinty Club
Oh, is it? I'm so
sweater.
sorry. No,
Aye.
just
These
say
are
the
not
badge.
Aberdeen colours, Gordon. Come on.
No, your red colour. I keep forgetting. No, I'm looking at the badge. No, sorry, mate.
That's all
Anyway,
right.
how are you morning, Norrie?
Well, it's been a hectic week. Politics hasn't stopped, and that's why we keep going on this show, trying to tell everybody what's happening and trying to give some kind of perspective on the politics. There's a lot of comments this week from people who, some of them most agree with what we're trying to say about the free ports, the wind turbines going up all over the place. And if I can just delve in, Gordon, because I know we've not got much time, but it always flies up on us. I'll just go into the comments and I'll put them past you.
Okay.
Patrick Kavanagh Martin, he says, we need to advertise that Scotland is a non-self-governing territory. Car stickers might be good. Who should do that? Somebody out there could do it, I'm sure. It could be something along the lines of, hello from the colony of Scotland. This is a car sticker, I am from the non-self-governing territory of Scotland on a sticker. These things make a big difference, Gordon, because they stop people and they go, what's that? And even if they do that, then people go to the next step and find out what that is. And then it catches on. So it's a good idea, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, the more people know about it, the better.
Yeah. A lot of people are agreeing with this. Kevin says, I was thinking that we need badges or a symbol for a non-self-governing territory. The print table, Scotland, the colony Scotland, just something, bite-sized.
Yeah.
And so that's gone on. You can have a look at that yourself if you want to. Greg says, thanks again for a great show and for mentioning Liberate Scotland, which we're duty bound to do because they're a political party, a political group containing parties. I believe, he says, Gordon, this is important. I believe we're living through a golden era of decolonisation whereby the all-powerful British Empire is not only crumbling, but is almost at an end. We are at the final stages of this, and I can't wait to see our Independence Day celebrations.
Well, I think that's a topic we should return to.
Yeah, definitely.
The stage we're at. I think that's something we need to discuss later in the programme.
Yeah. Hi, boys. Love your work. Stuart from Australia. We're going to Australia, down under.
Okay.
Here's another one, Gordon, that we're talking about before as well. I'm so glad that someone is talking about the industrialisation of the Highlands and the fact that Conservative colonialist party are trying to say that they are the saviour. This is the Tories going to all these meetings and pretending they're the new saviours of the environment.
Yeah.
But, on every petition put forward by the companies before profit, they are the ones writing to the government. On a lot of these sites, which were portrayed as a non-political people, are now backing Conservatives. They are no friends of Scotland. Exactly right. And I think, Gordon, we've got to be careful. Some of these meetings for anti-wind turbines, anti-power banks, etc., are being loaded with Tories. They're just going and they're filling them up. And people are getting a bit fed up of the way the debate's going at these meetings. So they're not going. So there's some sneaky stuff going on in here.
Do you think
Tories? Yep.
I think they're trying to sneak other topics in through the back door during these meetings. Things that will advance the Tory party in Scotland, or they think will advance their fortunes. Okay.
Yeah, I really do. Keith Brown says the UK is a colonial project run by the Anglo-British state government in Westminster, England. Yep, that's what we're trying to push. Yep. Will we get a colonial ID card? We'll speak about that in a minute. Mark Bain says, Norrie, Gordon, you and Norrie should go and do the reporting for Scots. It would be perfect, 100%. Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we're trying our best.
Duncan says, hi guys, is there anyone you know with a commercial drone to document the spread of wind farms and the infrastructure involved? Also show the work to create the water extraction projects around Loch Ness areas and elsewhere, showing how much change is overtaking Scotland. Well, Duncan, that's a really good point. I was speaking to some YouTubers who go up the hills and record their Munro's Garden, right? And every time they go up, they take a drone to film the scenery, because you can't walk there, but if you put a drone round, it collects information in the scenery really well. So what I'm in the middle of doing is asking some people if they can take drone pictures, standalone pictures of the wind farms, and two have said yeah, because they're getting concerned. These are climbers, and they've said yes, because we're getting really annoyed. So Duncan, that's going on. People are now starting to take drone pictures of these wind farms, so you can see the extent of them. Thanks. Richard Kidd says, thanks, chaps. Great as always. Good points for Albert and sovereignty, one eye for eye, etc. We need cohesion across the movement, the likes of we see with Colette and these parties not entrenched in the union ways. Fresh approach.
Another topic we need to talk about, I think, later in the show.
I'll try and run through these as quick as I can. The SNP will not put Scotland first in independence negotiations. They don't have the bottle to stand up to English threat and bribery. They are a devolutionist party and have proved that they are not the party of independence. That's Derek Nail. We should call the 226 Commonwealth Games the 2026 Colonial Games. That's a good idea, isn't it?
That's a wonderful idea. Even if it's not official, I think we should refer to them as that.
Yeah, and put the stickers out at that point, the car stickers. That would be a double whammy, wouldn't it? Shonad says, hi, Gordon and Norrie. Enjoyed and feeling fired up again. Listen to the podcast. On the media points at events, it's generally not that great, particularly the sound quality. That might be your Wi-Fi signal, because most people can hear us and see us quite well. I'm guessing that there's none at all, but it is a critical part of the event, whereas it feels all too often like it's been an afterthought, something that I hope events leaders will sort out at the start, so all the technical problems can be avoided. So if somebody's having problems.
It's not a perfect world.
No. We'll get to that as well in a minute. Robert Savage, Alba have already stated the way ahead is for all indie parties to get together. Actually, I disagree with that, because Alba are sticking, they're a standalone party. I asked Kenny McCaskill when I interviewed him, Gordon, would you come into a coalition with other like-minded groups? He says, I am the leader of this party. I will take this party forward. That's what he said. And if you don't believe me, I've got it recorded. It's still there.
No, I think I believe you. It's a comment that you need to read in the context of how it was said and what the questions were, But
I wasn't trying to trip him up, Gordon. I was just asking,
Yeah, it's unusual. Definitely a thing to say.
I am happy that some comment I recently made about Scotland has led to finding this channel. I enjoy the hills as well. I'm going to get a bunion sorted before I get back to the hills again. I think we should aim for a pan-Gaelic agreement. This is what was to happen after Bannockburn. We could restructure. We have the right to sovereign people with the scars of colonisation on our backs. Just be aware that democratic socialism doesn't exist now. So democracy is dead.
This is an observation that's being made by bloggers and reporters in England as well. And interestingly, I think I saw a piece by Professor Richard Murphy, who is an economist, and he was saying the same thing, that Scotland is the only part of the UK where there is any kind of socialist political activity at all, any social democracy. The rest of it, the UK, it's died. All the parties, as he claims in England, are basically, he calls it a single transferable party. They're all the same. They all have the same neoliberal agendas as each other, and they all operate in the same narrow window of things that they're prepared to talk about and things that they're not. So luckily for us, we still have that socialism leaning baked into our DNA.
But that comes from the people, Gordon. The people in Scotland direct and demand the socialist policies of the parties. And if they don't do it, like the SNP might find out to their extreme cost at the next election, could take a hammering. Just be aware that democratic socialism doesn't exist now. I want us to consider the Orwellian roots. I've been speaking about George Orwell and 1984 and how it's cyclical. All these events are, for a new generation, Gordon, they bring out the same hymn sheets and they go round and round the circles again. War, poverty, class, all that kind of stuff. And it breaks us all up. Common goals of common people. Exactly. We could integrate aspects of the Xanarchism that Orwell witnessed in Spain before the Allies, communist liberals sought to sabotage the new fledgling humanity that would have emerged. I have much more to say on these important issues soon. That's where we're getting to, Gordon, because at that point, way back in the Spanish Civil War, the people were then in command. They didn't like the two factions fighting against each other. Peace broke out. But this was a precursor with the German Luftwaffe helping Carlos. Carlos. These people this was a proxy war, and the people of Spain did not like it. So what we're witnessing in Spain before the Allies, communists and liberals came, there was already moves to make it a peaceful country. Right. Anne Rayner says, I like your story about only climbers and walkers being aware of the destruction of our iconic landscapes with massive pylons and other unnecessary things to Scotland. Examples of intrusive infrastructure. Would it be possible for you to acquire or commission some pictures and publish them to inform Scots of what is happening to our country? Again, I'll repeat, Gordon, there are people out there with drones that are going to be in the hills taking these kind of pictures.
Can I ask a question there, just on the point of taking the pictures? One of the things that occurred to me when you said that was, if it's climbers and walkers, they're taking drones. When they reach the summit and they launch the drone, what they want is a 360-degree panorama, because then you will see all of these infrastructure items. Because you can see so far from these enormous heights, that's the thing that allows you to see where everything is, and that's why most people don't see them unless they climb to the top.
There's a good point, Gordon, that's what they do use their drones for. But it's only in the last 6 to 8 months that we've seen this massive new wave of turbines going up. And people going up again, late winter, it's now time for maybe getting ice axes out in the crampons and the beautiful hills. You will see these even more, because in the summer they're kind of camouflaged and you can't see them. But against the white, you'll see them. And the guys that go up do the full circle, but they take the hills. They want the good pictures for their vlogs on YouTube. But here's the deal, Gordon. There's so much animosity that now they're going back up these hills to take the pictures. So they are going back up and taking the big pictures. So watch this space.
Okay, excellent.
I don't know where this one comes from. Peter Campbell says, as regards your discussion about the Irish participating in Empire. We did. We mentioned Scots being part of the Empire. This is a claim. And the Irish were part of the Empire. He says that the Duke of Wellington was born in Ireland. It was.
It was.
Yeah. Is that the guy with the cone in his head?
Yes, and he was born in Ireland because at that point Ireland was under English dominion, and there you go.
Correct.
And there was a nobility there too, and they basically collaborated with English dominion.
There's a few here, Gordon. Every contract created by Westminster will be open for renegotiation when Scotland is in charge. If the company doesn't like it, they can ask Westminster for compensation. That's international law on contracts created by the previous controlling power.
Good point. Very good.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bruce McDougall. Jack Maguire says, brilliant again, lads. If anyone doesn't understand Haud Ma Jaiket, put a good Scottish word in the middle. Effing, it makes it more Scottish. Thanks, lads. Never stop. Haud Ma effing Jaiket. Well,
for that.
There's more, Gordon, if you can bear with me, because they're all good. We could return to some aspects of life before the clearances. How about that? A button ben, a bit of land and cattle, some crops. We could be a creative force again, says Cosmos. Before the advent of fridges, meat, dairy, fruit, and vegetables were all fermented by our forebears. We need to return to these forgotten places and live vibrantly again. We will become self-sufficient and healthier. This is all because Ireland would enter into a pan-Gaelic agreement that was offered by King Robert the Bruce. So a bit of history here. This would have caused Scotland to be the rightful lawful custodians of our land. Let's take Scotland back into Scotland. This land waits to be transformed by a people that have been wrung dry for so long.
Very interesting comments. Particularly interested in the ones about self-sufficiency, about growing your own food, and the idea of, a new Scottish government or a new Scottish polity, basically saying they're going to parcel out some of these abandoned villages to people who want to live there, and maybe grant them access to land or grant them ownership of some land where they can actually have small holding and support themselves. And that kind of self-sufficiency is actually something that's very popular in the United States, particularly in Alaska and the more remote territories of the US, and it's encouraged. And I believe you actually have things like tax breaks, less bureaucracy. You're not on as many electronic lists because you're living independently. You're not dependent on things like, cabled power or piped gas and things like that. So that would be a remarkable thing as a social experiment to try once we are free, because it would be a way of repopulating remote parts of the Highlands.
Yeah, there's so many good ideas, Gordon, but I think the great thing is people are now coming out with these ideas. I remember maybe 3 years ago, Commonweal done a survey about if we had the land, what would you do with it? And I picked up on this and I asked people to give me their ideas of if they had an acre of prime Scots land, what would they do with it? And I tell you, from dismantling wrecked cars, so making artwork and making new products from wrecked cars. There was a lassie that wanted to make bespoke shoes from tires, old tires, so she could make it all. There was somebody that wanted to, that seen the dangers of industrialized chicken and beef. So she wanted to make chickens produce the best meat and best eggs, and there would be a premium. There was all kinds of ideas about how you would use an acre of land. That's all you get, an acre. And the ideas were amazing. So this is good. We need more about what you would do if you had an acre of land. Try it again with our show. If you had an acre of land, what would you do to regenerate that land, to bring in an economy? What would you do? Is there any skills you could use that maybe have been forgotten, like knitting, wool turning? I don't know. Let us know. We're getting a Welsh comment here. Arder Koch, I don't know what that means. Excellent work from Wales. Sorry I missed a few of these. What times are you guys on live? I caught up on a few, but I've missed some. Well, we're always on YouTube. You can always go back to. Actually, can I just say something, Gordon? A lot of people go to Haud Ma Jaiket, type it in, and it doesn't come up. You have to go to Indie Live or Inde-Car, I think.
Inde-Car is my main channel. Yeah, Inde-Car, Inde-Car.
So I think we'll have to put that out at some point so we can get people not going to Haud Ma Jaiket and getting nothing. This is Haud Ma Jaiket, part of your show.
Yeah.
There's a few more. All this money to build energy machines will be worth it in the end. Like all infrastructure projects, they can be mothballed or dismantled within a decade. It will be back wild land again. You would never know there were millions of turbines there.
Yeah, you can. This is a big advantage of wind turbines. They can be dismantled in a few hours if the right equipment's there and disconnected. And they have a small footprint once they're installed. But of course, there's underground cables running away from them, which obviously would stay there. But you can still graze sheep, you can still grow trees, and largely they would eventually just disappear back into the wilderness. So yes, it can be remediated quite quickly. once the ability and the ownership is established to do it.
That's right. The only problem I see, Gordon, is they're chopping down trees that have been there for hundreds of years. Now, once we take those wind turbines back out, it still takes an awful long time for those trees to grow back again.
Yes, it does. The regeneration period is about 50 to 80 years.
But it could be a good reminder to us when we see all these patches that that's what once was, but no more, you know?
That's it.
Not so much brainwash. Sometimes it's a generational gap. You couldn't understand why Charlie Kirk's death was so renowned. It's because he promoted discussion to sit down and talk to people opposing points of view rather than resort to violence. We mentioned the death of Charlie Kirk. Somebody go on there. Somebody's gone stuck the boot right into me here, Gordon. You are wrong, Norrie. There has been 9,000 houses built in Elgin in the last 12 years, and most have been bought by young locals.
Is there any evidence to support that?
That's what I asked, and I got nothing back. He's just put this out.
So it's an assertion at the moment. It's a claim, but it's not substantiated.
Exactly. So there you go, Gordon. That's the comments from last week.
Okay. Well, why don't we get into the meat and potatoes of the show then? Because there's quite a lot to discuss today, isn't there? We discussed these topics over the last day or so.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Well, the thing, just carry on from some of the comments, there's more and more groups kind of starting up, forgetting political parties because they feel the political parties aren't doing them any favours at a local level. So you've got in Clashferrin down the loch, down to Invermorrison, down that way. There's a group there up in arms right now, Gordon, because a wind farm company, and they're Swedish, I think, are building these monstrosities. But there's wildcats. Wildcats are habitat there. And they've said, do not build here. This is a fragile ecosystem. They've gone roughshod right over the top of the ecosystem that's there, the people's concerns, everything, to get their wind farms up. Now, that ties in with something that just happened here not so long ago as well. We've got the capercaillie. Now, this is an iconic bird. Numbers are dwindling.
It is an endangered species, protected by law. Yeah.
Remember that, Gordon. Protected by law. The wind farms are going up, and we now know, over the last week, I found out that these wind farms are now desecrating the trees. Remember, they're taking down the trees?
Yeah.
And the capercaillie is at risk of being lost for good, like the dodo. Where does it go?
Well, that's the thing. If you denude the land, there's no cover for any animals, whether they're apex predators like wildcats, or even mountain lions, which died out in Scotland years ago. So did bears, but there is no cover. If there's no trees in the glens, then there's no cover for these animals to hunt. So they go elsewhere. They go somewhere else where there is some cover. And these end up being very isolated little islands of endangered species, which can only exist in these little enclaves. And this is what happens when you chop trees down. And tree cutting has been going on in Scotland ever since the Union began, because settlers wanted to clear the land for sheep.
Yeah.
So forests were cut, timber was removed, and we end up with a landscape we see today, which looks barren and wild. But in actual fact, it's largely artificial, because there were forests covering much of it for thousands of years, and it's all been removed. And so, as you say, these animals are now the capercaillie and the wildcat, highly endangered. The wildcat, in particular, has very, very few numbers left because its habitat has been systematically destroyed. And that seems to be continuing. Nobody's giving a toss about them. They think, oh, well, it's progress. We need the power. We don't need the power. We're overproducing power. We've got 3 times as much electricity as we need right now. And the plan by the United Kingdom is to increase that to 10 times the amount of electricity Scotland needs. So we'll be getting about 10% of it, and the other 90% is going to flow to England, where it actually is really needed. And that's the real reason why all this is happening. It's because the English government is encouraging corporations to start building these wind farms on land because it's cheaper, much, much cheaper than building an offshore wind farm.
Yeah, indeed.
And ironically, the idea of wind power was to reduce the damage to the environment. So you reduce air pollution, but at the cost of destroying wildlife. And it's the ultimate irony of this entire situation. You get everything backwards.
Exactly. The thing about the ecosystem that we have, it's not just those animals on. There's different layers to an ecosystem. So there's the ground. On the ground, you've got the capercaillie, the wildcat. But above that, you've got things like the Scottish crossbill. Now, that's a bird that's unique to Scotland. A lot of people said it should be on the rugby jersey rather than a white thistle, which doesn't mean anything. It's a corporate logo. Get something like a Scottish crossbill, and it has a crossbill to get into the pine nuts, the kernels, to open it up. And it's they're becoming less and less. You know, ornithologists are coming up here to look for them as an endangered species. So all along the tree, there's different ecosystems up and down. Red squirrels as well, Gordon.
Pine martens as well. Pine martens,
yep.
Yeah, they're all dying out because the forests are being removed. And it's got to stop. You know, at some point, hang on a minute, we have enough there. If you want turbines built for England, build them in England, you know, and build them on your coast where you've got steady winds. You've got plenty of room. Why build them here? Why impose this on us where we don't need it and we definitely don't want it because it's destroying the wild spaces that we all value the most? Ergo, that shouldn't be happening, you know? But we've no control over energy policy, as usual.
As usual. One thing, Gordon, though, we know fine through Richard Murphy and other people that the only three things can win over high inflation. One is gold, which you can't get because it's hidden in vaults and stuff, but it never goes below inflation. The second one is land. If you can get land, you can beat inflation because you can develop on it. Land is cheap. And if you can outsource your land, which hasn't been used, and you can convince governments that you're doing an altruistic thing, creating energy, that's what they do to the Scottish government to get permission to develop, then you're quids in. Because that land that was nothing can be something.
You remember yesterday, before this show went live, you and I always have a discussion on a Thursday beforehand to discuss what we're going to talk about. We were talking about this business of land in Scotland, why it's being developed by its owners. And the reason is there's far too much foreign ownership of Scottish estates. If you go to the central belt where I live, people can own their own houses and own their own gardens, even own their own access roads. That's not an issue. But when you move up to the Highlands or the West Highlands or the Islands or any other place where it's more remote, most of the land up in these areas is owned by massive estates. And the land is bought as investments for conglomerates, you know, for pension companies, right, who've got thousands of members, and they're trying to make money out of that land any way they can. So their managers, whoever it is they insert into that, the management of that estate, think, well, how could we use this land? There's not much on it. Let's put up some wind turbines there. Let's dam that burn and we'll generate some power from that. You know, let's do this, that, and the next thing. And the reason they get away with it is because they own the land that they're putting it on.
Oh, we lost Gordon. He's stuck. Oh, we lost. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah, just a wee glitch there, Norrie. Yeah, so I'm just saying, let's just get back to the focus. I'm just saying the land ownership is the problem. It's the corporations that own the estates that are doing the most damage.
Well, that's interesting, Gordon, because I was speaking to a councillor who will remain nameless, but we were talking about planning laws and stuff, and he goes, no, estates come under the rules of the council. They must tell what's to be put down, and they must go through all the regulations. I says, but is there any way they can assert those, jump over those regulations? Because it seems to me, where I stay, up the Balmacan estate, They're allowing big, huge tracks to be dug out, and lorries go up bringing trees down, and massive. I mean, they've got to go on the roads, Gordon, with a van in front of it to tell you it's a wide load. That's how big these wind turbines are. They are massive.
It's not just about the wind machines, because the timber that they're taking out, if you take something like Scots pine, for example, it's been growing for maybe 100, 120 years, there's perhaps about 5 or 6 tons of valuable timber in there. And timber is usually priced by cubic meter of volume. And a cubic meter of timber can be anything from about £500 all the way up to about £6,000 a cubic meter. So every one of these trees that they're lifting out is profit for them. They cut them.
Of course it is.
These are trees. It's profit. So as well as getting their turbines up, they almost are self-financing by cutting the trees and selling the timber. So you can see how it works. It's a money-making venture that's partly self-funding. It's partly funded by the destruction of the environment. So by destroying the forests, they make money to build turbines that we don't need, to generate power for the other country next door, for which we don't get any payment. So well, it's the ultimate F off, from the UK.
It is. Do you know this? We spoke about all this last week and the week before, but I think what's happening now, maybe because of the shows and maybe because of the comments we get, people are now starting to take action and starting to get really worried and looking at options like getting stickers made up. I think that we're on to a new level, Gordon, and I'll repeat this again. Alf Baird has said we're in the last third of post-colonial theory. It's what happened in India, it's what happened in Barbados, Jamaica. All of these places went through the same stuff as what we're going through.
They're not.
And we have to grab the nettle. We have to, as a people, not rely anymore on political parties. They are a busted flush because they're part of the system. As Sarah Salyer says, Gordon, why would Westminster cut off its arm, i.e. Holyrood? It's part of the beast itself. Holyrood is part of Westminster. Get that into your heads. It's controlled by there. Devolution is always. It's not power. It's power retained. It's not given. It's retained.
Yeah, and it can be removed. It can be removed with a pen. So you never know how long it will last. This very limited power that we're allowed to have could disappear tomorrow.
That's right.
That it wasn't working anymore, he could just justify it and say, no, it's not working anymore. It's over, right? No more Scottish Parliament. Remove a whole layer of politicians and expenditure at the stroke of a pen.
Well,
he loves it.
Gordon, this is all written down in the Internal Market Act. If there's a state of emergency, Stormont, the Senate and Scottish Parliament will be closed. And what does an emergency constitute? That's up to the British government. So it's written down in the Internal Market Act. Look it up if you don't believe us. The Parliament could be closed tomorrow. Look at Stormont. It was closed. It was closed. The thing, Gordon.
Hey, Norrie, just got a little bit of an emergency back at the house today. Apparently, the boiler's leaking.
Oh, right.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut things short today to get back home and fix this before my wife.
Do you want to carry this on later on today, Gordon? Or
yeah, we can maybe pick up again later on.
So we're only halfway through. We've only got half an hour done. So get your boiler fixed. I'll be here. I'm working away, but I have a meeting at 4 o'clock, so it'll happen before that.
We'll maybe try and do a second segment later today.
Get your boiler fixed.
I'm heading home to fix my boiler before my wife starts to put her wellies on, okay?
All right, catch you later. Sorry, folks, but we will catch up later on in the day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.